I'm even just going to use the board. This is all I'm going to fill up, and that'll be it for today. Okay, sex-linked genes. It sounds fancy, but this is all it is. No. All right. You know, up to this point, we've been talking about alleles. Here's an allele, here's an allele. We've been talking about you put two of them together and it's basically what a gene looks like. This gene will go on to code for some trait, maybe brown eyes, whatever. But all the traits that we've been discussing so far are traits that are more or less located on your autosomes. Now, you guys should know what that word means, autosomes. Remember, autosomes refers to most of your chromosomes, 44 of the 46. Okay, most of the chromosomes that you have in each of your cells are autosomes. They're not the sex chromosomes. The sex chromosomes are the other ones. And you guys should know at this point that as far as sex chromosomes, you can either have two X's or you can have an X and a Y. If you have two X's, you are a girl, and if you have an X and a Y, you are a boy. Okay, well keep in mind, these are chromosomes too, just like all the other chromosomes. Okay, and they're going to contain genes as well. However, oops, I erased it, I didn't want to. You have to kind of distinguish them a different way. In other words, you have to distinguish the genes that are located on sex chromosomes a little different than you would genes located on any old autosome. Okay, it's kind of the same. So if I take that same genotype over there, and if I wanted to say, all right, that's actually a gene located on a sex chromosome, you would kind of distinguish it that way. Okay? For a girl. So this, basically by writing it like this versus like that, that's telling me, you know what, this gene for this trait is located on the sex chromosome. It's not located on one of the other chromosomes. Okay. So sex-linked genes, basically the real simple definition are any of those genes, any genes you have that are located on your sex chromosomes, be it X or be it Y. I'll even put that X or Y. Now they do differentiate from here. They do go on to say, okay, there are the ones that are going to be located on the X chromosome are going to be called your X-linked genes. And the ones that are going to be located on your Y chromosome are going to be called the Y-linked genes. Okay, kind of get rid of these for now. Okay, so you have your X-linked genes and you have your Y-linked genes, and they only differ in the fact that these genes are on the X chromosome and those genes over there are on the Y chromosomes. I'll be perfectly honest though, we don't really talk about these very much. The Y-linked genes. Any ideas why? Based on what we kind of have already talked about the Y chromosome?
It's very small.
It is very small. There are so few genes located on the Y chromosome. You know, it really doesn't have it doesn't play a huge part because there's not very many genes there. Now, the genes that are there are very important to make a male, that's for sure, but there's so few of them. The X chromosomes, which both boys and girls have, actually that's a whole other story because they're big. They're big, and even when you guys are doing your karyotypes, you should have seen the X chromosomes were bigger than the Y chromosomes. So, but here's the thing, by the way, I'm just going to kind of for the record put this, these are genes on the X chromosome only. And again, just over here, just for the record, these are genes on the Y chromosome. Just to make it official. Okay, now here's the deal. Here's why it's kind of a fun thing to talk about. When it comes to X-linked genes, males are more affected than females. Here's what that means. This is what I mean by that. One of the genes located on your X chromosomes is the gene for hemophilia. Okay, what I mean by that is remember, let's say I'm just kind of drawing a picture of a piece of DNA, and this DNA is part of the DNA that's on an X chromosome. Okay, well, that's going to contain lots of genes. Genes are no more than real small segments. That gene's going to go on to code for some protein in a process we'll cover in more detail in the future here. But here's the point. People with hemophilia have a broken piece of DNA on the X chromosome, so that's not going to be able to make the right protein, and in this case, it's not going to be the protein responsible for blood clotting. People with hemophilia have trouble clotting their blood. You're going to want your blood to clot every so often. I know we just did a lab with blood type where you're dealing with clotting blood, but there are actually times in your life you do want blood to clot. When you get a boo-boo, when you get an injury, that's going to be, that kind of clotting is good clotting. But people with hemophilia have a problem with that. And so these people kind of tend to run the risk of bleeding more than they should. So that's why it's considered a disorder. Males are more affected than females by hemophilia because this trait is located on the X chromosome, and I'll go into more detail in a minute. Another disorder that males tend to get over females is color blindness. Okay, if you would kind of sample most of the colorblind people chances are most of them are men. Okay, not women. Again, we'll go into detail of why is that in a minute. In just a second, let me just give you one more example. Muscular dystrophy. Muscular dystrophy is another disorder found on the X chromosome. That's males. The reason, I'm going to say why are more males affected than females? Why? It has to do with the fact that females have two X chromosomes. So, there is a greater chance of a recessive allele to be masked by a dominant allele. Okay. So females have two X's, so there is a greater chance of a recessive allele to be masked by a dominant allele. Here's what that means. If you have a female here that has this genotype, okay? Again, don't get confused when you see it written this way. You guys recognize big B is heterozygous. Okay, so you're heterozygous for the trait, and the fact that I put them next to big X's just tells you that this particular trait is located on the X chromosomes. That's the only thing, but it's still heterozygous. You still treat the capital letters and lowercase letters the same way. So if I look at this genotype, I'm like, okay, first of all, I know I'm talking about a girl. Second of all, I know that this particular person is heterozygous because they have one uppercase, one lowercase. So if you look at this, you're like, okay, this person does not have the disorder, following the same rules from last chapter. However, this female does have a recessive allele here, the lowercase, but the fact that she has this other allele here present means that she's not going to have the disorder. Now, a male sometimes isn't so lucky because they have when a male, the Y chromosome, remember, is really small. They don't have space for that allele. They don't have a room. They're not going to have one. It's almost like it's just nothing, empty. So what they get on their one X chromosome is what they're stuck with. There's no possible way to mask it by maybe having a dominant. What they have is what they're going to get. Females have, you know, a little better chance of avoiding the disorder because they have two. Okay. All right. Moving along, what I'm going to want you guys to do when it comes to this stuff is what I'm going to kind of draw next. Punnett squares. If you kind of knew how you were doing a Punnett square last chapter, this is going to be extremely easy for you. I want you to do, I'll just erase the whole thing. Okay, let's say I have a female with this genotype. And this female is going to produce offspring with this male. Just for the record, maybe we'll just say big B is the allele for, you know, normal blood clotting. And the little b is going to represent the allele for hemophilia. Okay. Well, knowing this, you can look at these two genotypes, and the female, even though she has a recessive allele, she's not going to have hemophilia because she has that dominant allele there to kind of mask it. So good for her, yay. You know, the male over there, he doesn't have hemophilia. He doesn't have hemophilia, he's good. So neither parent has hemophilia. But if you set up a cross with them, if you do a Punnett square, and since, believe it or not, this is going to be a really, really simple Punnett square, just with 4 boxes, and you do this the exact same way that you've done Punnett squares before, let's take mom here, and remember, according to the law of segregation, those two alleles are going to separate. That's all I'm doing here, but you just kind of bring the X's along with them. I got one big B here, one little b here. Okay, they're going to separate. Do the same thing with Dad. In his case, his one chromosome doesn't even have an allele on it, but I'm still going to draw the Y. Fill in the box. Fill in the box real quick. Hello. Tony, yes? No, that's okay. Yes. No problem. No, not a problem. I'll send her down right now. All right, bye-bye. Hey, Liz. Mr. Langhouse would like to see ya. Okay. Okay, we're filling this in.
Uh-oh.
The same way you do any other Punnett square. Bring all the letters together. But check out what happens. Again, this is really, even though it looks at first glance to be different from what you're used to, it's actually the same. There's just a little more writing to it. Because not only are we differentiating whether a person has capital letters and lowercase letters, now we're bringing in the whole sex part of it, whether you're a male or a female. Okay, so here, look at this. At first glance, I'm looking at this Punnett square. I'm looking at all the boxes in the middle, and I'm saying, okay, at first glance, you should tell, though, that you have an equal chance of having a girl as you do having a boy. Please understand that, guys. I don't care if you're from a family who has all boys. You know, 11, 12, 13 boys in the family. Every pregnancy has a 50-50 chance of being a male or a female. No questions. Okay, that's just how it works. It's just kind of luck that you have either all one sex or the other. It's actually, that's how it is. Because, and this Punnett square shows that. It shows you that when two people, male and a female, produce offspring, there is an equal chance of having a girl, 2 out of the 4 boxes, and an equal chance of having a boy, 2 out of the 4 boxes. Okay, so you should also notice too, if you look at this, you should be able to tell that 75%, this couple has a 75% chance of producing a child with normal blood. Okay, how do I know that? Well, 3 of the 4 boxes, these 3 right here, have at least one capital letter in it. They're going to be normal. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Christmas. These are fruit flies, so I'm going to have to deal with that in a minute. Okay, anyway, One.
Live?
I'm surprised. Maybe not.
What do they call me, Bob?
They would be.
Are they alive?
They would be. Can you open those for me? They're not bad. They're just blue flies.
shaking.
And you can. Thank you. I thought they would be like tags on it saying live materials. So I don't know. It'll be cool. If they are what they are, I'll show you guys. This last box here. Check out this last box right here. Obviously, number one, you should recognize the toy. Okay, and number two, you should recognize, there's only a recessive allele in it. Obviously, this individual is the one that will be affected with a disorder. But notice, here's the point. Male, female, mom, dad, there is no possible way that they can produce a female with hemophilia. They do have a chance of producing a child with hemophilia, but it will always be a boy. This is why you see some traits are far more, yes they are. Wow, okay.
Wow.
They're the same flies, you guys, probably. Okay, thank you.
How exciting.
It is exciting. We'll put our little flies up there.
Lizzie.
Am I live?
Lizzie.
No fly swatter. These things cost money.
Why'd you buy flies?
Genetics experiment, actually. You can, fruit flies come in actually many different forms, and there's a normal type and there are mutant types, and my AP class is going to do crosses of normal flies with not normal flies, and we're going to see what we get. Very cool. And what? We're going to make flies, yeah. Woo! Sounds exciting.
It does.
Okay, do one more favor, one more thing for me. And then we'll be done. Let's take that same female, but now let's cross her with a male who does have hemophilia. Okay, we got a male who does have hemophilia. Do a quick Punnett square of that. Just get used to kind of doing a Punnett square with kind of all these symbols. That's really more or less the one thing I want to get through to you guys. Okay, mom, again, they're going to be split up. Dad, split up as well. Bring them all together in the middle. See what kind of offspring can be made. You do notice something here, though. Hopefully.
Ooh,
We got a girl who's affected. So here's my point. You know, when it comes to these sex-linked traits, it's not always the males that are affected. There is a chance, under certain situations, that females can get the disorder, but look what has to happen in order for that to take place. You've got to have both mom and dad with a recessive allele. I'll be honest, that does not happen much. That doesn't happen much. That would kind of be real bad, bad luck. You have mom and dad that both have a recessive allele. That's a situation where, yeah, they can produce either a female with hemophilia or a male with hemophilia. But like I said, this is a much more common mating, okay, because the recessive alleles aren't really around a lot in the population. So in this kind of situation is where you'll see more males actually having the disorder. So that's kind of how it goes. Questions on any of that? Like I said, if you understood Punnett squares, this should not really be a big stretch. The only thing that's different with what I did now is the fact I'm now dealing with certain traits that are located on the sex chromosomes, the X's or the Y's. All right, speaking of which, you guys are actually going to turn off the camera at this point.